Well, hi there again, and welcome to the next step. And, welcome to more scary material. I hate to do this to you, but, the truth sometimes can be disconcerting. But the fact is, if you want to take the next step into any ability to affect the world around you, you have to know what the world around you is about. You have to know the truth of what's going on in the world. And it's very difficult to make any sense of the massive confusion in the world today if you don't understand the lay of the land. So today we're going to try to make it make a little bit more sense. You don't know this because you're not supposed to know it. Because if you did know it, just like with many other agendas that power pulls down, we would be out in the street really protesting. And that's why you're not supposed to know this, and that's why we're here today to help try to shed some light on something called Agenda 21. The first salvo in the New World Order, in the world government in your backyard, basically. So we're going to try to break down what Agenda 21 is. And I have today with me Mr. Brett Hughes to help me do that. And would you like to, is there anything you would like to start with? Or how we'll try to get people to understand that Agenda 21 is basically a mandate, both of federal, state, and local governments to follow a sustainability mandate. Which sounds also ever so good, but it's really not about sustainability. If you break it down, you'll understand that it's about control. And if Brett would please say something about that, I will go ahead and say something. So the camera will be on you, and they won't see me go over and close the door so we don't get this echo.
Right,
okay?
Right. Little technical details here at the studio. The Agenda 21 is a very interesting thing. It's from the United Nations, and then from the United Nations, it's been given to state governments, local governments, and handed down not as law, because they couldn't pass this stuff in Congress. The people, if they were notified about this, they wouldn't pass it, but they could do it under a stealth, like under the radar, so people don't see it coming. And it's always couched in terms like sustainability.
Oh yeah, sounds great.
Concerns about the environment and things like that. But actually, what's behind this is a United Nations, top-down agenda.
Right.
And it's been put into non-governmental groups, NGOs, and NGOs are running with this, and they're getting funding, and it's also, the government's also in hand with this, but not officially. It's, again, not laws.
Oh, well, yeah,
they
call it, though, as is not official. But at the same time, they have all of these laws that are coming down that if you don't follow them, then you're held responsible.
Yes, at the local level.
Not just the local level. Yeah, there are all kinds of laws. I mean, the way they're implementing this, like I said, you're not supposed to understand this. None of us are supposed to really get it, because, like I talked last week about the pyramid. It's like you're sitting down here underneath this pyramid, and it is all a mass of confusion above you. But the people at the top know exactly what is coming down. And and so you have something that was written out, put together by people we don't even know who they are. One of the main players is a man called Maurice Strong. I bet you never heard of Maurice Strong, did you? You didn't vote on him. He's not in any government, you know. No. But he wrote out a paper and with some other people, literally in 1972. He's part of a group of people called the Club of Rome. Now, I mentioned this on the last show. This is part of the Big Pyramid. And he has so much power. These people have so much power that you can write out a document that literally reconfigures the whole layout of your life, my life, the economical, everything.
And it's all driven from the United Nations.
Yeah, right.
And it's given to us by, presidents, not through like Congress law,
Right.
At least not initially. For example, George
Exactly.
Bush addressing the United Nations General Assembly on February 1st, 1992 said the following, quote, "It is the sacred principles enshrined in the United Nations Charter to which the American people will henceforth pledge their allegiance."
Precisely.
Now, this is a president of the United States saying, we're going to pledge our allegiance to the United Nations.
To a world government.
Yeah, to another organization. What right would the president of the United States have to say, we now have allegiance to something else? I mean, that is just totally wrong-headed.
Well, yeah, it's wrong-headed for what we believe the truth is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm going back to, is that you have to take the next step and be brave enough and go where no man has ever gone before, and address the fact that what you believe to be the truth for all these years about your government may be wrong, because they are pushing us to a new world order. I mean, Bush Sr. himself pretty much introduced us to the New World Order, and that is a world government. And the people in power have understood this for quite a while now, that we are under a much bigger rule than, in their terms, than the American democracy. For a New World Order, American democracy and American capitalism as we know it is outdated, and it must be done away with. But you can't just trot out in front of people and go, ha ha, goodbye America, goodbye democracy, goodbye capitalism as you know it, well, we're done with this. So they have to do it slowly, incrementally, and have it make sense to you. And that's what this is all a part of. This is the slow, gradual decomposition of America and life as you know it, and to try to make it as imperceptible and rational and desirable.
And they always try to make it sound good, like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now that sounds great.
Absolutely,
It's
exactly.
from the United Nations. Well, great. I'm all for no wars and
Right.
a more sensible governments and people working together and stuff like that. But when you start looking at what the UN is actually about, if you actually study it instead of just listening to the mainstream media
Right.
telling all this platitudes about it, you read things like Article 29.
Yeah.
For example, in this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, quote, "Everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible." So your whole life is supposed to be for the community.
Yeah.
That sounds like, I hate to put a scare word out there, like communism or collectivism or something like that. Also, right after that, in Article 29 again, "In the exercise of his rights and freedoms," I'm just going to read this straight, "everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedom of others," which sounds good, "and of meeting the just requirements of morality." So the UN's talking about what is
Right.
moral and
Yeah.
what's not. Public order.
Yeah.
Okay. and the general welfare in a democratic society. Now that just leaves it just wide open to where they can do anything they want, and they're basically saying your rights will be curtailed for these things that we decide.
That's absolutely right. I mean, again, it's incredibly disconcerting if you start studying this. One of the saddest things that I have found is that, like the Tea Party, the Occupy movement was created at the highest levels of power. You know, but people get all excited, go, no, it's grassroots. And there are a lot of people who get involved because they're grassroots. But the whole movement is not about grassroots. It's about moving you to being okay with living with nothing, with a direct democracy, like, you know, oh, yay, all right, finally we have direct democracy. But what you have direct democracy in is just your community. Abby, you get to elect the dog catcher, but you have absolutely no power whatsoever in who is actually running things at the top. You know, the people who are running things right now, who are at the top of the government, who are in Wall Street, who are in the World Bank, IMF, EU, they'll still be there. That's not going to change. The only thing that will change is that they will become more powerful because you will become less powerful. You will have absolutely no say in a democracy.
And the whole thing with the United Nations and this, you know, Agenda 21 from the United Nations, it's very dangerous because what it is it's more and more centralization.
Yes.
And when you have centralization of a government, whether it's between two people, I mean, let's say you just have two people in a society, well, it's very hard to have corruption in a two-person society. And when you have a village of 100 person, it's a little bit more corruption, but not too bad. In general, but when you have a 100,000 person society, well, corruption could get really bad, or when you have 300 million, as we've seen, it gets out of control. Yeah. And so when we're talking about greater centralization with the UN, with the Agenda 21 being pushed on us from the top down,
right,
it makes us individuals lose control because now we have to deal with the UN instead of our government.
Yeah.
We have to deal with, you know, instead of state government or local government or something like that, it's the UN. And so all these things are leading towards greater and greater centralization. And for corrupt forces, that's what they want because it's so much easier to have a central point to corrupt and just one point, and that they can concentrate their forces, and it disempowers everybody else.
Everybody else, exactly. It's like, you know, like we believe at this point we have like a left and right, a Democrat and Republican, but you know that's all lost now anyway. But you know, you think, well, if these people here are screwing us, then we can go over here and fight from another direction. But if you have only one power source, if there is only one source of power, and there is no countervailing force, that is the total dictatorship.
Yeah, it's basically what we're talking about with Agenda 21. When you look at the details, what they're shooting for, what they're going for, is a planned central economy and redistribution of wealth.
Right.
On local, state, and national and international level under the pretext of protecting the environment.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the sustainability, I have been a nature lover all my life. I mean, that was, I think I have a lot of credibility here because I was up, oh, my global warming, we've got to do something about this. And then I started figuring it out and I was going, wait a minute, I think we need to take a step back here. There's something going on. And so when I realized that it was being used, that we were being played, that my precious nature, my precious world was being used as a pawn by these horrible, greedy people who are playing us to move their agenda along, believing we were doing something good. It just makes me so mad. But yeah.
Like one person, like you know a lot about, and I know a little bit about, Maurice Strong.
Yeah.
He was Secretary General